Trying to start a YouTube automation channel in 2024 can be very overwhelming, but with all the different steps and strategies, it can be hard knowing even where to start. So today, I'm going to be showing you my strategy on how to start a YouTube automation channel completely from scratch. I've been running YouTube automation channels for over 4 years now, so if I had to start today, these are the exact strategies that I'd be using. I've been sharing my strategies and tips on how to run successful YouTube automation channels on my YouTube channel that you see right here for over a year now, and it's been able to help a whole lot of you. So with that, I'm trying to compile all the information just so that you can use this video for better reference in the future. So first off, what is YouTube automation? YouTube automation refers to the business model in which an individual contracts or hires another team or individual contractors to create YouTube videos for them. With those YouTube videos, they are posted onto YouTube, and usually the main source of revenue comes from the AdSense money, which are the ads that people, when they watch, you get a percentage of that ad for every 1,000 views per that ad. The term YouTube automation, though, is a bit misleading just because people have this misconception that YouTube automation means you yourself, all you got to do is pay a script writer, voiceover, video editor, a thumbnail designer, a channel manager, and then everything is completely hands off. When in reality, it does take some time and effort of your own to actually lead and take direction on where your channel is going. So instead of using the word YouTube automation, it's the most common known phrase with this business model in which, again, you hire all these contractors, and then with those contractors, you basically create videos and publish them onto YouTube. This model, though, is not that easy. So with YouTube automation, there are basically 4 main components that you need to get started. The first step is deciding your path. The second step is hiring or curating your A team. The third step is researching and creating videos. And then the fourth step is analyzing what works and what doesn't work. So let's start with the first step, in which you choose your path. So when I teach YouTube automation, there's basically 2 ways in which I teach people how to validate the niche that they're about to start creating videos on. And so with it, there's basically this internal validation method, and then there's this external validation method. External validation method means looking at other YouTube channels and then seeing if your niche is working for them. With these other YouTube channels, you want to make sure that they're usually smaller and they're usually newer, just because you don't want to be so biased as to looking at a lot of bigger channels. So if you're a brand new channel starting in the sports niche, what you want to do is that you want to find smaller sports niche channels to kind of prove that, okay, if they're able to grow, you should be able to grow as well. These smaller channels are a great validation to kind of prove to yourself that even though they're small, their videos are able to be found in the YouTube algorithm. So unlike smaller channels, though, you don't want to be externally validated by bigger channels just simply because the channels are too big. They have a growing audience. They have a backed up audience. They might even have other social media following, which is why their videos are growing. So you have to be very wary that in order to first externally validate your niche, find smaller channels and see if they're working or not working first. Next, we have the internal validation method. So with the internal validation method, there's this term that I like to use, and I call it leveraged advantage. So with leveraged advantage, that basically means trying to understand what you already know, what you already keep up to date with, and what you know more than the average person. Each and every single person, I do believe, has some sort of leverage advantage, but in different areas. For example, my leverage advantage might be in the NBA/basketball niche, but that doesn't mean that you should go into the NBA or basketball niche if you don't know anything about that niche yourself. Leverage advantage, it's a very important concept, and basically means going with what you already know best, just because you don't have to actually relearn a subject. As I've said before, if I'm in the basketball niche and you know nothing about basketball, you really shouldn't be going to the basketball niche. But if, let's say, you know a lot about fishing, maybe fishing may be a good niche for you. And just as a hidden nugget, don't be surprised that fishing itself, it's a great YouTube automation niche as well. I've had students run successful channels, most likely just 2 students, actually run successful fishing niche YouTube channels. So with that, though, that's not something that I would recommend, but if you know something more than the average person, that is what you want to call your leverage advantage, and that is where you should possibly go into a niche for a YouTube automation channel. So this is what I mean by choosing your path, in which, number 1, you got to externally validate and make sure that other smaller channels who are also in your niche are able to grow. And then number 2, you want to internally validate as well. Do you have or possess knowledge that more than the average person within your niche. Now, with choosing your path, this common term comes to mind in which, what if there's too much competition? So let's pretend that you want to go into health or weight loss niche. What if there's too much competition? In my opinion, you really shouldn't worry about competition, just because with YouTube, there are so many different traffic ways for your video to be found. And that's one of the things I absolutely love about YouTube. Your video can be found via the search bar. It could be found in the suggested bar. It could be found via the home page. It could be found through other end screens. Your quote unquote competitors' videos can even recommend your video on their videos as well. So that's one of the really fantastic things about YouTube, in which you really shouldn't be worrying about competition when the competition could actually help you. So also just think about the common viewer when it comes to YouTube. When I'm watching a video on, let's say, how to jumpstart a car, I'll watch one video, I'll watch a second video on the same exact topic. I'll even watch a third video just to confirm that the information I'm learning is correct. So same thing with you. Think about all the times you've searched up a subject on YouTube and you're still watching different videos, but they all are about the same exact topic. So that's the reason why competition itself on YouTube, it's really non-existent per se. But even so, competition, don't really worry too much about it. That's not really one of the reasons or ways I validate a niche when it comes to choosing my YouTube automation channel. So now the next step you want to do is hire your A team. So with your A team, this is basically like an adventure style team that's going to consist of 5 main people. So first you have the script writer, then you have the voiceover artist, then you have the video editor, you have the thumbnail designer, and then you have the project manager or channel manager. So with these 5 core roles, I must say that this is where you really have to work hard in finding the best team members that actually know your niche, that are actually communicate well, and are actually will be able to deliver on time. Now with YouTube automation, again, the 5 roles, I highly recommend that you start outsourcing right from the get-go, just because you don't want to be, my rule is that if you don't plan on doing something 6 months, 1 year, 2 years, 5 years down the road, then you're best trying to outsource it now and finding the right person for that position. So even though if you can edit videos, I wouldn't recommend that you edit your own YouTube automation videos, especially if you're not going to do it in the future. Just find a video editor. Same thing in voiceover. Let's pretend you are a voiceover artist. If you don't plan on doing voiceovers for your channel years down the road, then just find a voiceover artist. Now I understand that there's capital involved and you may be able to save some money, but if it's something that you're already going to do in the future, why not just do it now when it comes to hiring and training someone to actually help you create videos for your YouTube automation channel? When it comes to for each of the roles, for a scriptwriter, what I'm looking for is someone who, they don't have to be from the United States. I have scriptwriters from all over the world, but what I'm mainly looking for is that they actually know my niche. So this is probably one of the most important things when it comes to your YouTube automation channel and the actual role that you're hiring for, which is the scriptwriter. The scriptwriter, they really have to know your niche, just because you have to understand that in your niche, if you're just hiring someone that's just researching all the information, which is part of the scriptwriting process, I get it, but that's basically surface level information. What they're researching is basically just found all over the web, and you have to imagine that other people are also using that resource as well. So what you're looking for is a scriptwriter who knows your niche and then can input their own opinions and ideas into the script as well. That's something that's more unique and basically makes your topic of a video a lot more interesting, which is the ideas and the opinions of the scriptwriter combined with the research that they find online. So huge role. You want to make sure that you find someone, again, let's pretend that you're going to the NBA niche. You want to find someone who's actually keeping up to date with basketball, who actually knows basketball, who's actually passionate about basketball. So this is a major step that I did back in 2023, which is I was hiring people who actually know my niches instead of just hiring generic researchers who are actually writing my scripts. As far as the criteria for a voiceover artist goes, there's really not much to it. I'm just simply finding a voiceover artist who is professionally recorded, and it kind of makes sure that the tone of that voiceover artist suits the mood of whatever my channel is. So whether it's a horror stories type style channel, a basketball channel, a gossip channel, maybe it might even be a tennis channel. So different types of voices can accommodate different types of moods depending on your niche. But with the voiceover role though, I'm really not too picky. I just listen to their demo and then see if I like it or not. For the video editor guidelines, what I'm looking for in a video editor is someone who knows how to pull copyrighted footage and then compile it together in a meaningful way so that they create visuals for what's being said by the voiceover within the video. For the video editor, again, this is probably the second most important role after the scripter, in which ideally the video editor should know your niche. If you're saying specific names in your script and the video editor doesn't know who that is, it's going to be tough for them. But with the video editor though, I'm not looking for the most complex edit, but what I am looking for is someone who can meaningfully and basically grab and retain viewers' attentions by the visuals that you're using. So with a video editor, it doesn't have to be the most complex edit. I'm not looking for fancy animations or visuals, just someone to match visuals with what's being said in the voiceover and script. Now, as for the project manager, this is someone who's going to help you manage your team and also manage your channel. We're talking about researching topics, uploading videos, addressing any questions that your team has. That all goes to the project manager, and the project manager is who reports to you. A project manager can usually be in charge of more than one YouTube channel. So I have 3 project managers across my 13 YouTube channels, and they're absolutely all phenomenal in making sure that my videos get created, videos get put into production, and videos are being published. Now, as for the thumbnail designer, with the thumbnail designer, I'm not looking for someone who is extremely Photoshop heavy, but what I am looking for is someone who can come up with creative ideas and not necessarily the most complex design. So what I've realized after posting so many YouTube videos, probably over 5,000 at this point, is that a thumbnail isn't based on how complex the design is, but about how well the idea was put. So a thumbnail designer can be a very basic Photoshop editor or Illustrator editor, but what matters more is that they are able to come up with really good ideas for your video topics. Now, for all these different roles, about 90% of my hires come from Upwork. So Upwork is an absolute fantastic place to find affordable and high quality freelancers. Upwork is my go-to. I've been using Upwork for about 4 years now, and that's where about 90% of my team comes from. Now, with your entire team curated, let's say you have your scriptwriter, voiceover, video editor, project manager, thumbnail designer, you have everyone assembled. Where are you going to congregate everyone so that they can see what videos need to be produced and see what videos are ready to be published? So this is where my tool that I created called Task Force comes in. And so Task Force was basically made specifically for YouTube automation channels so that teams can streamline creativity and production and boost efficiency. So there is a free link to use Task Force down below in the description. It's absolutely free, but with Task Force, again, I've come from a standpoint in which I've used Notion, Asana, Trello, Google Sheets, and Zapier, and there's always things missing about those softwares, which is why Task Force was developed by me and my team. And for about 4 years now, we've been using it to run all our YouTube channels. It just makes creating YouTube automation videos a lot more easier. Now, the next step is to research and create videos. Now, there are 3 main ways in which I research or come up with video topics for all my YouTube channels. The first way is to come up with original ideas. So coming up with original ideas is usually by putting yourself into your audience's shoes and kind of imagining what you think they would like. So another term for this is basically pioneering ideas. And with pioneering ideas, it has a really good chance of getting your video to go viral just simply because your video hasn't been on YouTube before. So with that though, with these original ideas, you're basically coming up with them with the top of your head based on what you think your audience would like. The second way I've researched ideas is coming up with ideas and twisting them from non-niche related YouTube channels. So this has probably spawned the most viral video ideas on my YouTube channel, in which I'm basically looking at unrelated niche YouTube channels and seeing what works for them and seeing if I can apply what works for them into my niche. So let's pretend that I have a sports basketball channel. I'll start looking at golf channels maybe and seeing what works over there and trying to take patterns and aspects of what's working in those golf channels and bring it over onto the basketball channel. Now, the third way that I come up with research video topic ideas is from niche related YouTube channels. So this is probably the most common way that people come up with video ideas for their YouTube channel, in which they're basically just looking at other related YouTube channels. So if they're a basketball YouTube automation channel, they'll look at other basketball YouTube automation channels and just simply copy their ideas. Sometimes this works, but most of the time it does not work. I'd much rather prefer the first 2 ways of coming up with YouTube automation ideas. But with that though, it's usually the easiest way to come up with video topics for your YouTube channel, but I would say it's usually not the most successful. But let alone, it does work sometimes, but I'd much rather you have brand new ideas that you're introducing to the YouTube platform. Now, with with these topics, you basically send these video topics to your team through Task Force. And then once the video is completed, this is when I title the video, okay? So there are basically three main titling structures that I use for all of my YouTube automation videos. The first titling structure is what I like to call the feud structure. And with the feud structure, what you're trying to do is put two different parties against each other. So with that, what I mean is that you're trying to look for two specific names or two specific opposing sides within your video topic, and you're trying to put them against each other. So with it, an example of this might be why LeBron James is leaving the Lakers. So in a video topic title like that, it's basically LeBron James versus the LA Lakers. The feud titling structure works really great and can be applied to a lot of niches. The next titling structure that I use is the shock factor. So with the shock factor, basically your title is saying something that is basically news or something shocking to people that don't know. So tying to the NBA niche, this might be something called Stephen Curry is leaving the Golden State Warriors. So again, it's a shock factor, it's news, it's a new idea that people don't know about yet. The shock factor, again, also works in creating a lot of viral videos. The last titling structure, basically main titling structure that I use, is the why structure. So usually explaining why something happens, it just sparks curiosity amongst people. The why structure is a great way to explain why things happen within your niche, and this titling structure can be applied to all different kinds of niches. So explaining why something happens is a great way for your scriptwriter to come up with ideas and basically thoughts that haven't been introduced onto the YouTube platform yet. Now, when it comes to assembling your A-team, what if you can't find good contractors? What if you can't find good people? So this is a common question that I get all the time, and my answer to this is that these high quality people, they definitely do exist, and they don't have to be expensive. So they can be very affordable, but it does take time during the hiring process, in which you do have to basically interview people, you have to see their samples, you have to decide to hire or fire them. All I can say is that be quick to fire, but be slow to hire. So I've interviewed a lot of individuals who I still work with even to this day, 4 years later, but the interview process is something that's part of the hiring process that makes YouTube automation hard work. So they do exist out there. There are good editors, there are good scriptwriters, there are good voiceover artists, and they're all affordable. Don't be discouraged if you can't find a good scriptwriter. Don't be discouraged if you can't find a good video editor, because they do exist out there. Now that you have your video completed, how are you going to analyze what needs to be worked on your YouTube channel? So in the analytics of every single YouTube video, you're going to find what I like to call this upside down pyramid. And so what this upside down pyramid means, it's basically YouTube's hierarchy of in what order are things working for your video. So it basically means impressions and how they led to watch time. So watch time being the ultimate factor that YouTube looks at when comparing your video. So the first tier that you see right here is the impressions, okay? So if you're getting impressions, it's a good thing, okay? So if this video in particular, 89.3% up from YouTube recommending your content. That means that YouTube can understand what my video is about and recommend it to people. And that understanding what the video is about basically comes from the title of the video, the description of the video, what you're saying in your video. So impressions, if this number is low and imagine this said 0% from YouTube recommending your content, that means you have an impressions problem. That means the video topics that you're targeting, YouTube really can't recommend them to people because people aren't looking for them, or that maybe it's the keywords that you're using in your title and description. So you want to make sure that this is filled to the max. A high percentage of your recommendations and impressions are coming from YouTube recommending your content. One tier down below, we now have the click-through rate. So you kind of have to understand that this works in a hierarchy. First, you need impressions, and then you can worry about your click-through rate. If you're not getting impressions, you really shouldn't be worrying about your click-through rate just yet. So with this, I have about 16,000 impressions, but a 4% click-through rate. This video's thumbnail can definitely use some work. So 4%, a low click-through rate is below 3%. Average on YouTube is between 3 to 7%. Anything above 10% is a good high-through click-through rate. So with that high-through click-through rate, this is 4%. I would actually change the thumbnail to see if we can come up with something better. So again, once you have impressions, then you can worry about your click-through rate. Now let's pretend this click-through rate was over 10%. Now what? YouTube then gives you how many views you get from impressions. So this is a number that equates from the click-through rate multiplied by the impressions, And then with that, the next hierarchy is the average viewer duration. So with the average viewer duration, ideally you're looking for over 30, 40, 50%. So you would have to math this out depending on how long your video is. If your average viewer duration is on the lower end, let's say it's like only at 10% perhaps, then you know that there's something wrong with your video as far as the content goes. So content meaning that if there's a problem with your average viewer duration, you have to figure out, why are people dropping off? Is it because your title and the content of your video have a big disconnect? Is it because maybe your audio is blown out and people are leaving right away? Is it because maybe perhaps the content of your video is just too boring and there's not a lot of enough good information in there? So again, first you have to understand impressions and make sure you get them based on your titling, keyword usage. Then you have to have a good click-through rate. That comes from your title and then your thumbnail. Then that equates to views. And then YouTube sees what the average view duration is. You want this number to be higher. And then ultimately what they see is that this video generated about 38 watch hours from impressions. So realize that that's YouTube's ultimate metric, which is watch hours from impressions, in which they really want to make sure that your video is accumulating as much watch hours as possible. And that can only come from a combination of things. What you don't want to do is that you don't want to be focusing on the content of your video if you're not getting impressions. You don't want to be focusing on your title and thumbnail so hard if you're not getting impressions. So realize that certain steps have to occur before you actually focus on other steps as well. Now, when it comes to analyzing a video, recognizing patterns is absolutely huge on your channel. You want to see which videos are becoming outliers, meaning that they're getting views more than your channel has subscribers. By realizing that, you can understand what videos work and what do not work, and then actually post more videos related to things that do work. Now, one of the common questions that I always get is, what about videos that don't work on my channel? Should I actually work and change the titles and thumbnails out on them? I wouldn't recommend so, just because maybe your video might be perfect, your title and thumbnail might be good, but it's not always your fault that your video doesn't work. It might be because YouTube just needs time to recommend your video to the correct audience. So with that, don't really worry about all too much about really old videos or videos that aren't working, unless you really had a good gut feeling or innate feeling that that video should have worked. Then go ahead and change the thumbnail or title. But moving forward from that though, do focus on what has worked in your channel, what hasn't worked on your channel, and focus on newer videos to be published onto your YouTube channel. So do check out my free leases down below in the description, where you can find out how to start a YouTube automation channel free training, a community where you can talk with other people also starting YouTube automation channels, and task force free plan to help you manage your team when it comes to creating videos for your YouTube automation channel. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next video.